Well, I guess this is a story about going for a walk with my dad. But as I'm sure you all know, the scariest words in the English language are, "We need to talk." And when my dad called and said those four words, it was frightening. Because he didn't just want to talk to me. He wanted to talk to the entire family together. It was a particularly shitty time in my life. My engagement had recently broken up. I'd lost my job. I was living in a rental townhouse outside of Washington, D.C. with a bunch of strangers who, looking back, were probably drug dealers. And now my dad has just scared the bejesus out of me, and he wouldn't say anything about why he needed to talk. So I did the logical thing and called up his brother. Said, "Uncle Martin, what is going on? Is he sick? Is he dying? He had that heart surgery a couple years ago. What's up?" And my uncle said, "No, he's not sick, but it's his story to tell." So after a week of trying to arrange everyone's schedules to come in from various places to gather in Detroit, we gave up on that and had the first and only Broder family conference call, where my dad told us that he had committed a felony and was going to prison. Now, he worked in the fastener industry, bolts and nuts and screws. They're in Detroit, so a lot of business with the automakers, also the Defense Department. He was with one of the best companies in the industry. And they were busy, and they had received a relatively small order from a new company. And when it came time to fill that order, their quality control lab was backed up, and it was going to be a while before they could do the QC work. So my dad's like, "We just need to get this order out of here. We have the best quality record in the business anyways." And he dummied up the paperwork and shipped out the order. And a couple months later, the FBI showed up at his door. That small new customer was the Defense Department sting. And they were looking for the real quality control paperwork, which he did not have. And because he had faxed the dummy paperwork to them, he had committed wire fraud. Lying to the government is a crime, as it turns out. Not when they lie to us, but go figure. And my dad had hired a lawyer, and against his lawyer's advice had pled guilty. And the judge had said, "You know, you're an upstanding member of your community. We have all these reference letters from various community leaders and your rabbi, and none of it makes a difference because the federal sentencing guidelines have tied my hands." And my father was sentenced to 5 months in prison, 7 months of home confinement, and 3 years of probation. Which is how on a spring day, a lot like today, I found myself in Bradford, Pennsylvania, home of Zippo lighters and the Bradford Federal Correctional Institution. And I walked my father into prison. It's only about 50 yards from the parking lot to the prison gate. But sometimes distance is not measured in length, it's measured in time. And for Dad, that distance was 5 months until he could walk back out to the parking lot. I didn't have a lot of options in my life at that point. I moved back to Michigan, moved back in with my mom to try to get my life together. Mostly I spent a lot of time trying not to feel damaged. And after 5 months, my dad came home and got his ankle bracelet to wear for the next 7 months. Well, it's 22 years later. And there's still a lot of days I feel damaged. But sometimes distance is not measured in length, it's measured in time. And maybe I just have to put in some more time.